Welcome to the Authentic Wife Show. I'm Beth Rolls, a conscious marriage coach and author of The Authentic Wife, Uncaging Yourself Through Marriage. I help driven moms who love their kids more than they hate their marriage use the conflict in their relationship to become their most authentic selves so they can create a relationship and life they don't want to escape from. Stop waiting for your husband to evolve and start making every day feel like a vacation. You can find my book, tons of free resources, and Happily Ever After, the only marriage-saving coaching program, on my website, theauthenticwifeandmom.com. Thanks for joining me today. Let's get started. Victoria, I am really pumped that you're here. I can already tell that you have a lot of wisdom to share. I also loved reading about your background. So you were a successful realtor in 2009, which is wonderful. We had that terrible recession right around then. And you were homeschooling your kids. Bravo. I don't know how you did both. And today you're this author and you're a possibility coach. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is and how you ended up here from where you were before?
Yeah, absolutely. In so many ways, I believe my life has been guided and directed by people that I serve, first without paying, and then, my real estate clients were telling me, "You're really excellent at selling homes, but you're much better at saving lives." Like,
Oh,
it's too heavy of a burden for
right.
me to do." But it naturally developed, when I started, I got into real estate to solve a problem. And the problem was I got my family into great debt because I thought it was a brilliant idea to homeschool my kids and teach them about history and art by taking them to places of history and art. So I took my two little kids, 4.5 and 7, almost 8-year-old. My mom packed them. We went to Greece for 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
We were studying Greek language, and now we did the Castle of Minotaur. We had an amazing time, amazing time. Came home, my husband sat me down and he said, "Sweetheart, I don't know what they used to do in Soviet Union, but there's nothing attached to this little plastic card you've been swiping." And so I got introduced to the finances in America and to the idea of a credit and living on credit. I mean, I was both exhilarated and horrified by the concept.
Right.
And but having tasted what I've tasted with true education, I wasn't willing to give that up. That became a big why. And I said, how do I continue living the life of my dreams while paying for it instead of making my family homeless?
Right.
And the answer was 2007. It was real estate because, you put a sign in the yard and you had 50 offers. I'm like, well, I can do that. That's not hard. So I got my license. And of course, we headed into recession. And that's when things became interesting. I got a coach, continued to do basic principles that I've since conveyed, in all my business coaching, and really loved what I was doing. And then it was a combination of two things. One, the push from the client saying you've got to do more, and more an internal voice, I'd call it the still small voice, that knowing that you can call it either the spirit of God or intuition, divine guidance, that I literally woke up in the morning, in August 2014, when I was in the middle of my best months ever, best year ever. And I knew I was done. There was this knowing I'm done. And so
Wow.
I came into my husband and I said, I've got to do this thing. I've got to start my own company. And that's how You to Shine was born.
Yeah.
And the reason for the name of the company is I've walked through a lot of very dark alleys in my life. I've seen a lot of death, a lot of strife, a lot of poverty. And it's taken me a very long time to stop fighting the darkness and instead to look for the light. And
Oh,
it seems like such an easy concept. But as everything that is simple, it is not easy. You need guidance, you need support. And so from the very beginning, that became the passion that drove the company. How do you disengage from fighting the issues to creating what you've come to create? So that's how the company was born.
oh, that's wonderful. I love, I love that you're like, I'm just going to take them to Greece. That's the way my mom was. I was homeschooled too, and it was very experiential, and that was beautiful. That was my favorite part of it. So I love that you're like committed to continuing that. I'm sure you created a lot of great memories for them as well. Oh, there's so many ways we could go. I know you have so much knowledge. Tell me let's just start with, you were telling me how because I asked you if you were a financial coach,
Hmm.
and you were telling me about how your work is, you almost kind of categorized it through the chakras. So tell me about how you came to connect those with what you're doing.
From the early childhood, I did have very unique gifts, and I believe all of us have them. Mine just were not really suppressed by my parents.
Mm.
They were encouraged,
Oh,
encouraged as a
good.
fun thing, not necessarily as encourageable practice. Because as I've mentioned, I was born in the Soviet Union, in the part, in Ukraine. But the regime was falling apart, but any kind of spirituality was not welcome in any way, shape, or
Really?
form. So I kind of did things for fun, I did palm reading intuitively. I did coffee leaf reading intuitively, I mean,
Mm.
good tea leaf and coffee grain. And what I've realized with years is that things that we use to understand what's happening in a person's life are just tools. But really, we tune into a person's energy. And so I started exploring what energy is, and how does it flow and why doesn't it flow? And in my life, the story that inspired was I was 5 when I've experienced what became a metaphor for my work. I plugged a metal pin into a socket trying to create a hanger for my doll.
Mm.
And the in Ukraine, the the electricity is much higher. It's 240, not 110. Gratefully, I did not get electrocuted,
Uh,
but the impact was very heavy on me because in terms of spiritual, my grandpa was terrified I'd be killed, and the
mm.
program of fearing death was created, all of that. But looking back, what I always say is there's this power to the house, we call it electricity, and it's the same to every single device. But what comes out of every single device is determined by resistance to the power. So if I'm a little tiny light bulb that's 15 amps and I'm in the refrigerator, I have all this immense power of electricity, 240 or 110 coming to me, but I'm giving up only 15.
Mm.
If I'm a brighter light bulb, if I'm 100 amps, right, I'm getting all this power and I'm shining so much brighter. So what became very clear to me is that each one of us is the device of the divine, right? We're created and crafted by divine creator. And all of us are pre-programmed with different levels of resistance by our upbringing, by our genetic, by our culture, by our trauma, by our shock. So we have these different levels of resistance. And so there's this immense flow of power, of light, that is accessible to all of us. And yet some of us seem to shine so much brighter. And then we become labeled as successful or significant or achievers. But the truth is, the concept is very simple. We get out of the way of the divine. The resistance is lower. And I became so fascinated with that concept that I understood the physics formula, that the energy equals current divided by resistance. And so then I've gotten into Eastern study of energy, saying, wait a minute, there are these 7 centers that are called chakras, because that is not the language that is resonated with my culture. I said, wait a minute, to me, there are possibility centers. We have this infinite possibility to flow in 7 different ways that creates our life. And so how do I remove resistance, reduce resistance for each one of them? And that became the journey of empowerment. And so I lovingly named them. And instead of starting from top or bottom, I start from the middle. And I can tell you why. I start with love me, the
Yeah.
heart center. And it's
Yes.
love me.
Love
And then
me.
this love me. And the me is little m, big E,
Mm.
because in everything that we stand for, it's a reminder that each one of us is mortal matter that manifests materially, our physical self. But we're also eternal energy, that the essence that expands exponentially, that big E. So every time I affirm or lead my clients in affirming I am me, little m, big E, I'm reminding that I'm mortal surrendering to eternal. I'm matter surrendering to energy. I'm material surrendering to essential, and manifesting to expensive. And I'm both. I'm not either one. I love this little scared matter. It's here. My big E, my spirit chose it. So we started with Love Me, and then if you have questions, we can guide through any one of 7 and go in any one of those 7 directions.
You are just speaking to me right now, because I love this as a previous life engineer, like connecting those dots between the electricity and the resistance, and absolutely how much we have all these programs that create resistance for us, and how we can channel that energy and let it come through our lives. From what I know, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, from what I know, the heart chakra is the one that gets most damaged, from different things that our parents do. Like each chakra is affected differently, right? But any wound also affects the heart chakra. So it makes sense that you started there and worked with love. But I'm really dying to know more about what you're doing right now. You have a book coming out about this and the chakra related to finances and stuff, because this one, and I'm very selfish here because this is the most sticky for me despite all the work I've done. It's a hard one for me. So tell me more.
I started writing a book, a Love Me book, because I figured that's where we all start. And God kindly said, do you love yourself to write about what you need to write and learn, which is money? I'm like, what does money have to do with anything? And it was like, fine, you always win, And so I say, well, first of all, I look at God as great overall designer, right? That we all get to define as we resonate. And then love is life originating vibrant emotion or energy in motion. So life is very simple. If you add to life, you love. If you subtract from life, you don't. So that's kind of the beginning of it all. And so how do we get to prosper me? So I go from, love me to empower me, solar plexus. Why? Because God is love, God is light, universe is love, universe is light. I am me, which is I'm light and love. It's very important to start the love and light flowing. And then you expand to your throat chakra, I call it hear me, so you can express as the love and light you are, down to the sacral chakra, create me, so you can create through the expression of who you are. Then up to the third eye, which is your see me, so you then seen for the authentic, creative expression of love and light that you are. And then we go down to prosper me. So as a result of being seen as the authentic expression of creation of love and light that you are, you can prosper. And then you connect back to the crown chakra, which is master me, because you've mastered the opening of the flow. So I know it's not a traditional opening, but it's quantum freedom opening that works for me and my clients. So as you can see, the reason we get stuck with money is because we think money is the cause, but money is a symptom. So if you have a flu and you're coughing, we can take medication that suppresses cough, but it doesn't do anything for the virus that is causing the flu. So with money, we think we can solve money problems with money solutions. But it is simply a symptom of disconnect. You're either not connected to the love and light that you are, you're struggling expressing it, you're struggling creating through it, you don't see the genius and the talent that you are. And so by the time it gets to monetizing the expression of who you are through prosperous way, we don't know where we're stuck, and there is a break in, and we have these gazillion programs on money, and they're all symptoms. They heal the cough, and then it goes back to virus. And so many successful people say, wait a minute, here I was on top of everything, and here I am back where I've started, or worse. So that's the first step. So of course, Prosper Me then, the name of the book is Prosper Me, the 35 Universal Laws of Money. Universal laws to make money work for you. This little book's done very well. It's continued to be a bestseller, mostly because we're selling it for 99 cents on Kindle. You can have the audio version and the hard, soft copy for what it is really worth. On Kindle, we're really giving it away because I think the message is so needed. And the book is structured around 35 universal laws. Why are they universal? because they can be applied to any part of our life. Hence, we're healing all 7 chakras. See, there is a method to my madness.
Yeah.
So, the first law is gratitude, and it goes through all of them, all the way to the last law, which is the law of forgiveness. And so what I do in the book, I take the concept of the law, I give the story of how it played out in my life. Then there is an energetic shift, the affirmation to shift, to welcome the law to work for you in your life, not against you, because they're always working. All laws are always working, right? Gravity is here. Whether it's here to keep you up or to have you fall down, for or against, but it's here. So is with every law. And then there are 3 practical financial applications. So you change your spiritual, emotional understanding of the law, and then you affirm for your subconscious, and then you practically apply it. And it's a gorgeous journey that heals your relationship with the prosperity flow, which then will heal the relationship with a symptom of it, which is money.
Wow. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because I know I've read other books and they give you 100 affirmations and then just that's like it's helpful for a minute, but it doesn't really seem to, I was madly reciting them the other night going to get a Powerball to get I'm like, I'm gonna get this $1 billion or that I believe, and it's like, no, there's
Yeah, and little
something
voice
else.
goes like, well, good luck. You, it's like,
Yeah.
really? Okay, yeah.
You keep thinking that.
Keep thinking that. Yeah, let's see how that's going to go this time.
What do you, when you're working with your clients, so since I know now that you kind of hit all the energy centers are necessary, what kind of like subconscious thoughts, what are these fears that come up that really hold us back? Or what do you work with the most? What's the resistance there?
I think the biggest resistance is to accepting who we are as we are. We are too eager to punish, to hide, unable to forgive the parts of us that need to be accepted the most and are not ready to be changed. Most of humanity at this time is trained to accept only that they can change. And so there is always a part of us that we are refusing to accept. And it is that part that we need to welcome. I call it the scared self. We actually, on the side, we have a little, I don't know whether the pop-up is still there, but there's a free meditation from scared to sacred. And what that little meditation does, if you look at the 2 words, scared and sacred, they are the same letters with little C shifted. And it came as a result of work with a client who said, I just can't commit to my success. I can't commit. She just kept saying, I can't commit. And so what came through was, wait a minute, you already committed. You're just committed to your scared self. But you can't even find it because you're so afraid to find it. And so that 5 minutes has you connect to your sacred self, that big E, and pour love to all of the darkest, frequencies of who you are without needing to change them. That's like a big concept. Yes, there will be parts of us that are ready to be growing and changing, but there are parts of us that simply are not. And then the receptors for accepting and for receiving a part of who we are the same receptors that accept and receive abundance. So as we learn to accept all of who we are, that expands us to accepting others as they are, and that opens the obvious flow of all abundance to us, instead of subconsciously insisting on, this is the only way I'm going to have the money. And it blinds us to every other opportunity.
Okay. That makes sense. So we have to accept all of who we are, to accept others as they are, and that's what leads to accepting the abundance of money.
Okay, they're the same receptors. By receptor, I mean, it's like a kid's game, that you cannot put a round peg into a square box, but you keep trying. And so our receptors for emotion are built the same way. So let's say if you as a child were damaged to receiving love, it doesn't matter how much love is given to you. You don't have a gate, a receptor to receive it, so you react to it with anger. I mean, I know people have been in relationships when you're trying to be loving, and what you get back is anger because a person is unable to receive love. Well, if they're unable to receive love, their receptors for receiving are blocked. So and the fastest and deepest way to open them is to just first accept love that is there for you as you are, and through that love, accept yourself as you are. You know, because we would used to say, what was the phrase that in personal development is such a big phrase that love yourself for what you do, you know, that whole for thing, but it's not for something because it still calls you to do something positive. It really as, you know, you accept yourself as you are and you love yourself as you are. And it's beautiful art.
So creating the receptor just mostly requires giving it to ourselves first. Is that what you're saying?
You know, this is a great question, Beth, in terms of direction. We've gone for a couple centuries of outside focus, sacrifice yourself completely for the sake of someone else, and that was not healthy. And now, unfortunately, the pendulum is swinging all the way to take care of me first. I mean, it makes me throw up, that phrase, me first, because it's the pendulum of the same thing, because love is. You cannot experience love in one direction. If you are experiencing love, you love you and you love all. And if you say, I'm going to put myself first, or I'm going to love me first, you're cutting yourself from any and all energy of love other than the egocentrical nourishment of your current drama. Not even trauma, your current drama. And so there's a poison of me first. It's not first to second, it's love now. It's tuning in to the energy of creation that is love, feeling the same amount of love for you as you do for the chair you sit on, because you don't have to stand, for the flower in the field, for the person that's losing their shit at the store in front of you. And it's recalculating back to that energy. It's not, I've made a decision, I'm a saint. It's recalculating to that energy over and over and over and over again.
I always say that love is a state of being that you tune into. It's like a different frequency and it's not something you give. So I just love that. So in that mindset, like that's something you tune into, is like abundance or money something else that you tune into, or is that also through this channel of love?
They're all the symptoms of energy of love, because love is the frequency that creates abundance. And so, you know, when you look at the first law, it's the law of gratitude. And the distinction that I make there, because as many universal laws, as we study them, we tend to misinterpret them through the ego center versus the soul center. So you will see people writing these long lists of, you know, okay, every morning you need to write the list of 99 things you're grateful for. And then at the end of the month, you'll have $1 million. I mean, no, there's a formula. But the problem is that the universe does not respond to quantity. It responds to the quality of energy. So it's so much more important to be grateful for the same thing over and over again than to rack your brain to come up for other things you feel nothing about. Just because you should feel grateful for something or someone does not mean you do. And if you force yourself to put it on your list, you are resurrecting unhealed trauma associated with why you are not ready to be grateful for it.
Yeah.
So I always tell people, start with what is the one thing that you cannot think about without a smile on your face? And start being grateful for it 3 times a day, preferably at 9 a.m., 3 p.m., 9 p.m. My phone is set up for that.
Really?
Why? Because it's the sacred geometry of all creation. So you go like 9 a.m., my phone pops up and says, what are you grateful for right now? And I'll pause and I'll be like, what am I really grateful for right now? And so often, it's like my puppy who's at my feet. Yeah. And I will connect to that moment, and it's a sacred moment of being overwhelmed with the gratitude. And that nourishes the connection to love. So with gratitude, it simply doesn't work to fake it till you make it. Remember, there's no faking in the opening of the centers. Love, light, express authentically.
Oh, wow. What about, because I've been told so many things about manifesting and like the idea of visualizing yourself already there and then saying it like it's happened now. Like, I'm so grateful that I've graduated with this degree and look at me walking across the stage kind of thing. Does that play into it at all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes and yes. And as long as we align it with authentic intention, right? So the visualization through emotion is best done before you go to bed. So let's say, as you've given that example of graduating, make sure you don't insist on the how. You don't insist on necessarily which school or which day, or I always say set the date and then release it subject to change in the best and highest way. You have to set the date because that allows for you not to procrastinate with action. So, but you said it once. So let's say if I'm manifesting graduating with a degree, I'm going to ask myself, what would it feel like to have it in my hands? And before I go to bed, I'm going to fall asleep, being at the moment of that graduation and tuning into the one feeling. And what is that feeling? Is that a feeling of accomplishment? Is that a feeling of gratitude? Is that a feeling? What is the feeling? We want things because we want a certain feeling. We don't want things as human beings. We only want feelings. We're unable to connect to the feelings, so we relate them to things. So what would be that? For most people, it would be actually self-worth. A lot of us associate the absence of education with hidden patterns of lack of self-worth. So you tune into what feeling that is and what it feels like to be in that feeling as you drift to sleep. Because for 4 hours after, your subconscious mind creates neural pathways for seeking it out through your reticular activating system next day, the opportunities to feel that feeling. So then when you wake up in the morning, you continue the manifesting because we don't attract what we want, we attract who we are. So you now say, if that feeling was the feeling of accomplishment and self-worth, you ask yourself, what are 3 simple steps I can take today to support my feeling of accomplishment and self-worth? And then you take action. So it's the dance between visualization and acting as if you already have it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That brings up another thought. When I was thinking about the lottery the other day, like who wouldn't want to win the lottery? But I was thinking about that kind of like, what would it feel like to have it? And then I noticed some resistance to it. I'm like, well, I don't really need it. Like it would be great and I would give it away and there's so many things I could do with it. But what is that? Is that like my own scared self or is that just like,
It could
I
be a
don't know.
combination of many things. And, scanning your energy, you have an incredible energy of integrity. You're one of the people with higher integrity that I've probably met. That's like,
Really? Well,
that's
thank you.
beautiful, beautiful energy that you carry. There's a very clear thing of this is the best and most pure way to do things, and I will not do anything unless it's aligned with that. That's your gorgeous, gorgeous signature. So it actually is not your scared self. It's your sacred self that says, Beth, how about you leave this for somebody else who probably does not have the frequency of purity that you currently possess? There's a better way. And so when you say, okay, life is a lottery, I don't have to buy a ticket. I'm ready to receive the winning in the best and highest way that is aligned with the purity of my intent. And then you're going to write down the amount that you want. And then you're going to write down what you're going to do with that. So you have a very clear plan towards that. So you say, if I have $1 million, this is what I'm going to do. First of all, hello, U.S. government. Here's your 250 or 330, depending on whoever the president is. Just shove away. And then you're going to say, so that's the first thing I'm going to do. Now, what's this? I would say in my book, it's 10% goes to charity. What charity are you going to give it to? 10% goes to saving. What saving you're going to use? 10% goes to investment. What you're going to invest into? And then from that amount that is there, what are you going to do with that? And you're going to learn about yourself because you will see whether you would trust yourself with that money or not.
I
And
like
if you
that.
wouldn't, we're back to not accepting ourselves, then the universe definitely will not.
Oh, wow.
And the only way to know whether you would trust yourself with that money or not is to do that very practical exercise and be like, yeah, I mean, I want to say I would do that, but I really would just buy $1 million house and then be stressing about how do I pay taxes. And now I'm and our soul says, we don't need you stressed. You're fine where you are.
Yeah, what comes up there is like, well, I know what I would do with it, but what would my husband do with it? And
There you go. So, I wouldn't trust myself to be the wife who could explain to my husband, just
mm,
that's the gift there. That's where you find
okay.
it's not the money, it's where you find that. Yeah.
Ooh, you are so good. You're dead on, by the way, about the integrity, because that thought went through my head even like, somebody else needs this. I don't really need this. Wow, you're good. I love it. Tell people where they can find you. You've already shared a few things, but what would you like people to go do first?
I think the greatest place to start the journey is if you go to moneyquiz.me, and now we know why it's me, little ambiguity,
Right.
but you can misspell, so it's moneyquiz.me. And what it does, it actually tells you what your money healing mode is. It identifies your driving emotion in life. You'll have four types for most of us, so it gives you money in 4 types. And then it tells you which 3 laws to start with by breaking through that. So that's that's kind of where we welcome everybody, and then you become a part of the family, and we follow up. But my website, you2shine.com, shine.com,
Mhm.
and I do not have room for individual clients, but I do 15-minute free consult where I match you with the best coach that we have, or with the best program that I conduct, and so forth and so on.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, I really appreciate your time and for sharing all this wisdom and insight today. Thank you so much for retuning all of us. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much, Beth. It's been
Mhm.
really, really pleasant to be here.